Let's be honest, every One Piece arc has that one scene everyone remembers, the scene that carried the entire arc. So today, we're going through every arc and picking the one GOAT moment that made it legendary. Now let's start with Romance Dawn. There are definitely a lot of memorable moments in this arc, but for me, the GOAT moment is when Shanks entrusted his straw hat to Luffy. After risking his life and losing an arm to save him from the Sea King, Shanks placed the hat on Luffy's head and told him to return it once he became a great pirate. It wasn't just a goodbye, it was the moment that started everything. Without this scene, there would be no One Piece story as we know it. Now let's move on to Orangetown. There were some great moments in this arc, like Zoro carrying a massive cage with Luffy trapped inside it, showcasing his incredible strength and determination. But the GOAT moment has to be Choo-Choo's stand against Richie. Even though he had no chance of winning, Choo-Choo refused to back down and fought to protect the pet shop that meant everything to him. He stood his ground against an opponent far stronger than himself, defending the last connection he had to his beloved owner. Then we have Syrup Village. There were plenty of memorable moments, including Luffy's battle against Captain Kuro and the arrival of the Going Merry. But the GOAT moment has to be Usopp standing alone against Kuro. Even though nobody believed his warnings, and he knew he was completely outmatched, Usopp still chose to fight to protect his village. It was the first time we saw the true Usopp. Not a liar, but a brave warrior willing to risk everything for the people he cared about. Baratie gave us some legendary moments, from Mihawk's introduction to Sanji's farewell to Zeph. But the GOAT moment has to be Zoro's defeat against Mihawk. After being completely overwhelmed by the world's strongest swordsman, Zoro stood there battered and bleeding, yet his spirit remained unbroken. As Luffy watched, Zoro raised his sword and promised that he would never lose again until he became the world's strongest swordsman. It wasn't just a defeat, it was the moment Zoro's ambition became stronger than ever. Next up, Arlong Park. The GOAT moment in this arc has to be the walk to Arlong Park. After Nami finally asked for help, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp marched together toward Arlong's base. Two monsters and two future gods walking side by side. The aura, the music, the build-up, everything about this scene was perfect. I'll be honest, this was the moment I betrayed Naruto and became a One Piece fan. After Arlong Park, we arrive at Loguetown. There is no debate. The GOAT moment of this arc is Luffy smiling at his own execution. Standing on the same platform where Roger was executed, Luffy was moments away from death. Yet instead of being afraid, he smiled and accepted his fate. Even the people watching couldn't believe it. In that moment, Luffy showed the same spirit that made Roger the Pirate King, proving that he was destined for something special. Our journey into the Grand Line begins at Reverse Mountain. While this arc is short, the GOAT moment has to be the introduction of Laboon. At first, Laboon looked like just another giant whale, but then we learned the heartbreaking truth he had been waiting for his pirate friends to return for over 50 years. It was our first glimpse of the emotional storytelling that makes One Piece so special, and it made us all want to see Brook reunite with him one day. Next up is Whiskey Peak. Luffy versus Zoro is definitely one of those moments we'll probably never see again. But the GOAT moment of this arc has to be Zoro taking down 100 bounty hunters by himself. Surrounded by enemies and completely outnumbered, Zoro didn't hesitate for a second. One after another, the bounty hunters fell until all 100 of them were defeated. It was the moment that showed just how terrifying the future world's strongest swordsman. Next we have Little Garden. Sanji talking to Crocodile and securing the log post definitely made him the MVP of this arc. But the GOAT moment has to be the duel between Dory and Brogy continuing after 100 years. For an entire century, these two giants never abandoned their warriors' pride. It was our first real look at the honor and spirit of Elbaf's warriors. Next, we move to Drum Island. Hiriluk's speech before his death, "A man dies when he is forgotten," is one of the greatest speeches in all of One Piece, and Luffy standing his ground to protect Hiriluk's Jolly Roger is one of the arc's most legendary moments. But the GOAT moment has to be Luffy climbing a frozen mountain while carrying Nami and Sanji. With no other way to save his friends, Luffy pushed his body beyond its limits, climbing barehanded through the freezing snow while refusing to give up. It was one of the earliest moments that showed just how far Luffy was willing to go for the people he cared about. Now we arrive at Alabasta. This arc is packed with legendary moments. Luffy defeating Crocodile proved he could take down a warlord, and Vivi's determination to save her country was inspiring from start to finish. But the GOAT moment has to be the Straw Hats raising their arms for Vivi. After everything they went through together, Vivi made the painful decision to stay behind and protect Alabasta. She asked one final question. If they met again someday, would they still call her their friend? Instead of answering with words, the Straw Hats silently raised their arms, revealing the X marks that symbolized their bond. No matter where they went, Vivi would always be one of them. Next up is Jaya. This arc introduced us to Blackbeard and gave us one of the most important speeches in the entire series. But the GOAT moment has to be Luffy punching Bellamy. After Bellamy spent the entire arc mocking dreams and humiliating people who believed in them, Luffy finally had enough. With a single punch, he sent Bellamy flying and proved that dreams are never something to laugh at. It was quick, satisfying, and one of the most iconic punches in all of One Piece. Next, we move to Skypiea. This arc gave us two incredible moments. First, Sanji standing up to save Usopp from Enel's attack with a cigarette still in his mouth. That scene was unbelievably cool and remains one of Sanji's most badass moments. But the GOAT moment has to be Luffy ringing the golden bell. With one final punch, Luffy sent Enel flying and rang the bell that had remained silent for centuries. It proved that the City of Gold was real. It was the perfect ending to one of the greatest adventures in One Piece. Next we have Long Ring Long Land. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this arc, and yes, Afro Luffy is absolutely one of the most iconic and hilarious moments in it. But for me, the GOAT moment has to be Admiral Kuzan's introduction. Up until this point, the Straw Hats had faced powerful enemies, but Aokiji was on a completely different level. With almost no effort, he showed just how massive the gap was between the crew and the true monsters of the world. His arrival completely changed the tone of the story and gave us our first real glimpse of the overwhelming power of a marine admiral. Next, we have Water 7. This arc is packed with legendary moments. Usopp versus Luffy is easily one of the most emotional and well-written moments in the entire series. But I'm really sorry, Usopp fans. The GOAT moment has to be Sanji's bingo moment. The reveal that Sanji had secretly boarded the sea train, outsmarted CP9, and was already working behind the scenes was absolutely incredible. Next up, Enies Lobby. I know what you're thinking, Robin's I want to live moment. And yes, it's one of the most emotional scenes in the entire series. We also got the legendary debut of Gear Second, but if I had to pick just one GOAT moment, it has to be Sogeting burning the world government flag. With one shot, the Straw Hats declared war on the strongest organization in the world for the sake of one friend. It was the moment that proved they weren't just a pirate crew anymore, they were a family willing to challenge the entire world to save one of their own. Next up, Post-Enies Lobby. Imagine being a One Piece fan in 2006. Garp reveals he's Luffy's grandfather. Dragon is confirmed as Luffy's father. Then Oda casually introduces the 4 emperors. And somehow, none of those were the craziest moment. The GOAT moment was Shanks meeting Whitebeard. 2 legends sitting on the same ship talking about the future of the seas. Then came the clash that split the sky itself. For the first time, we saw what the absolute peak of the pirate world looked like. Next, we have Thriller Bark. Thriller Bark gave us some great scenes, from Brook's tragic backstory to Nightmare Luffy. But the GOAT moment is, without question, nothing happened. Honestly, even people who don't watch One Piece know about this moment. After taking all of Luffy's pain and suffering onto himself, Zoro was left standing in a pool of blood. When Sanji asked him what happened, Zoro simply replied, "Nothing happened." In just 2 words, Zoro gave us one of the most legendary moments not only in One Piece, but in all of anime. Next, we have Sabaody Archipelago. I don't care how many times I watch this scene, it never gets old. A celestial dragon shoots Hatchin. Everyone in the room is terrified. Nobody dares to move. Then Luffy slowly walks forward, cocks his fist back, and absolutely destroys St. Charlos with one punch. The animation, the silence before impact, the reactions afterward, everything was perfect. Out of all the incredible moments in Sabaody, this is the one that every One Piece fan remembers. Continuing on, we have Amazon Lily. After Kuma separated the Straw Hats, Luffy found himself stranded on an island inhabited only by women. The best moment in this arc has to be Luffy unleashing Conqueror's Haki. In the middle of the arena, with Marguerite's life on the line, Luffy released a mysterious power that instantly knocked people unconscious and shocked everyone watching. Even Boa Hancock and her sisters couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. Next, we have Impel Down. Looking back, it's crazy that one of Luffy's greatest allies was introduced as an enemy. Throughout this arc, we got unforgettable moments from Bon Clay, from his sacrifice at level 3 to helping Luffy survive Magellan's poison. But nothing comes close to Bon Clay opening the gates of justice. Knowing he would be left behind, Bon Clay chose to stay and face certain capture so Luffy could escape and continue his mission to save Ace. As the gates slowly opened and Luffy's ship sailed away, Bon Clay was smiling until the very end. Next, we come to my favorite arc in all of One Piece, Marineford. Luffy standing before the 3 admirals, Mihawk showing 1% of his power, and countless other epic moments made this arc unforgettable. But let's be honest, there are only 2 real contenders here: Ace's sacrifice and Whitebeard's final speech. And yes, Ace's sacrifice is absolutely a GOAT moment, but Whitebeard's final speech hits differently. Even after suffering hundreds of wounds and fighting an entire war, Whitebeard stood tall until the very end. Then he shook the entire world with just a few words: "The One Piece is real." Every time I remember that scene, I get goosebumps. So the best moment in this arc is Whitebeard's final speech. After the chaos of Marineford, the story slows down for a moment and gives us one of the most important flashbacks in the entire series. We finally got to see Luffy, Ace, and Sabo growing up together. This arc was full of unforgettable moments, but the GOAT moment has to be Luffy realizing he still has his crew. After losing Ace, Luffy completely broke down. For the first time in the series, he had lost the will to keep going. Then Jinbe reminded him of something important. Instead of focusing on what he had lost, he should remember what he still had. "My crew is waiting for me." That realization changed everything. It was the moment Luffy got back on his feet and decided to become strong enough to protect the people he loved. 2 years later, the Straw Hats finally reunite. This arc may be short, but it gave us one of the most satisfying moments in the entire series. After everything they went through during the time skip, everyone wanted to see just how much stronger the crew had become. And then Luffy casually stopped a pacifista with a single punch. The same weapon that once pushed the entire crew to their limits was now defeated effortlessly. It was the perfect way to show how far the Straw Hats had come. Next, we dive into Fishman Island. This arc gave us some great moments. We learned the truth about Fisher Tiger and Otohime, saw the Straw Hats show off their new powers, and witnessed one of the biggest displays of Conqueror's Haki in the series. But the moment that stands above the rest rest is Luffy using Conqueror's haki to knock out 50,000 fishmen. After 2 years of training, everyone wanted to see how much stronger Luffy had become. And with a single burst of haki, he instantly dropped half of Hody Jones's army. It was one of the coldest moments in the series. Next, we arrive at Punk Hazard. This arc gave us plenty of funny and memorable moments. Law forming an alliance with the Straw Hats completely changed the story, and Zoro vs. Monet gave us one of the coldest scenes in the New World. But the best moment comes at the very end. Just when Doflamingo was about to kill Smoker, Aokiji arrived out of nowhere and stopped him. Seeing a former admiral casually step in and force one of the 7 warlords to back down was absolutely incredible. It was the perfect ending to the arc, and the reminder that Aokiji was still one of the most powerful figures in the world. Continuing on, we arrive at Dressrosa. This arc is full of legendary moments. Sabo's return, Law's heartbreaking backstory, and Usopp becoming a god are all unforgettable. And then Luffy unleashes Gear 4th. The moment Bound Men appeared, every other moment faded away. Watching Luffy completely overwhelm Doflamingo with a power we had never seen before was absolutely insane. The Gear 4th versus Doflamingo fight changed One Piece forever and gave us one of the most high transformations in the entire series. Next, we arrive at Zoo. This arc didn't have massive battles or flashy fights, but it gave us one of the greatest reveals in One Piece history. The GOAT moment has to be Raizo is safe. For days the Mink tribe endured torture, destruction, and unimaginable suffering at the hands of Jack and his forces, yet not a single Mink betrayed Raizo's location. Then, when the Straw Hats finally asked about him, the Minks calmly revealed the truth. Raizo is safe. That moment shocked the entire fanbase. The loyalty, honor, and brotherhood displayed by the Minks instantly made this one of the most unforgettable scenes in the series. You know an arc is special when fans still argue about its best moment years later. Sanji's backstory, Brook breaking the Mother Carmel photo, Luffy versus Katakuri, and Jinbe officially joining the crew all have a case for being the GOAT moment. But for me, nothing comes close to Luffy refusing to leave without Sanji. Starving, beaten, and barely able to stand, Luffy sat in the rain and waited. Even after Sanji attacked him and told him to leave, Luffy refused. He didn't care about Big Mom, the Vinsmokes, or the danger around him. He just wanted his friend back. When Luffy said, "Without you, I can't become king of the pirates," that's when you knew this wasn't just a crew anymore. It was a family. Before we head to Wano, we have the Levely arc. This arc was basically one massive reveal after another. The Revolutionary Army infiltrates Mary Jawais, the world's kings gather in one place, and we get some of the biggest lore drops in the entire series. But let's be honest, one moment completely stole the show. The introduction of Imo. For the first time, we learned that the empty throne wasn't truly empty. Sitting above the Gorosei and holding a photo of Vivi was a mysterious figure known only as Imo. That reveal shocked the entire fanbase. Next, we arrive at Wano. This arc is absolutely packed with legendary moments, but above all of them, there are 2 moments that stand in a league of their own. Roger laughing at Laughtail after finding the One Piece, and the moment Joy Boy returned. This was a really tough choice, but I finally made up my mind. The GOAT moment of Wano is Joy Boy's return. When Luffy awakened the Hito Hito no Mi, Model Nika, the entire fanbase lost their minds. As the drums of liberation echoed across Onigashima, Zunesha declared that Joy Boy had returned after 800 years. Then came Gear 5th, one of the most iconic transformations in anime history. Watching Luffy awaken his true power and finally defeat Kaido was an absolute banger. Not just the best moment in Wano, but one of the greatest moments in all of One Piece. And now we arrive at Egghead, the arc that keeps giving us one insane moment after another. Garp's Galaxy Impact, Kuma's punch on Saturn, Shanks one-shotting Kid, and the Gorosei entering the battlefield are all incredible moments. And yes, the fight between Luffy and Kizaru was absolutely insane. But the GOAT moment has to be Emmett releasing Joy Boy's haki. After carrying Joy Boy's will for over 800 years, Emmett finally unleashed the haki that had been stored within him. The sheer power of it shook the battlefield and reminded everyone that the legends of the past were on a completely different level. And I think that was the moment Luffy truly realized how far he still has to go. And finally, we arrive at Elbaf. Even though this arc is still ongoing, Oda has already given us some unbelievable moments. Loki's introduction, the mysteries surrounding the Sun God, and all the new lore have been incredible. And trust me, I'm still eagerly waiting for the God Valley flashback. But based on what we've seen in the anime so far, the GOAT moment has to be the reunion between Saul and Nico Robin. After everything she had suffered, seeing her reunited with the friend who helped save her life was simply beautiful. And that's it. The GOAT moment from every One Piece arc. Of course, these are just my picks, and I'm sure some of you have different choices. So let me know in the comments which moment did I miss and which arc had the greatest GOAT moment in all of One Piece. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.